Romeo and Juliet. In the fair city of Verona, where we lay our scene, two households, both alike in dignity, bore an ancient grudge that bred new mutiny. The Montagues and the Capulets, noble and proud, lived in silent contempt until their feud turned deadly on the city's sunlit streets. Our story opens not with joy, but with unrest. Servants of the Capulet house wander the marketplace, jesting and exchanging crude words. Soon, they cross paths with the Montagues' men. Banter turns bitter. Insults become threats. Swords flash in the morning light. The brawl grows as Benvolio, cousin of Romeo and a peacekeeper by nature, attempts to stop the fight. But Tybalt, fiery nephew of Lady Capulet, arrives and provokes Benvolio into combat. Citizens scream. Steel rings on stone. Chaos reigns until Prince Aeschylus arrives, his voice silencing the noise. He chastises both houses for disturbing the peace once again, and proclaims that the next to spark such violence will pay with their life. Elsewhere, Romeo, the Montagues' only son, walks in solitude beneath the sycamore trees. His cousin Benvolio finds him lost in thought, his face shaded with sorrow. Romeo confesses his heart is heavy with love unreturned. He speaks of Rosaline, a woman he loves who has sworn off men and marriage. Benvolio, ever practical, urges Romeo to forget her and examine other beauties of Verona. Romeo, caught in his own melancholic poetry, doubts he ever could. Meanwhile, across town, Lord Capulet speaks with Count Paris, a nobleman and kinsman to the prince. Paris seeks Juliet's hand in marriage. Capulet hesitates. Juliet is not yet 14, he says, too young to wed. Yet he does not close the door completely. He invites Paris to a feast where Juliet will be present. Perhaps, if Paris woos her well, she may grow fond of him. Capulet sends his servant to deliver invitations to the feast. The servant, unable to read, seeks help. By fate, he meets Romeo and Benvolio. Romeo reads the invitation aloud, learning that Rosaline, his beloved, is on the guest list. Benvolio seizes the chance. He urges Romeo to go and compare Rosaline's beauty to others. Perhaps he will finally move on. Romeo agrees, though he says his eyes will only confirm what his heart already knows. Inside the Capulet house, Lady Capulet calls for Juliet. The young girl arrives, graceful and obedient. Her nurse, a woman of warmth and humor, joins them. Lady Capulet speaks of marriage and of Paris's interest. Juliet listens, shy but dutiful. She agrees to observe Paris at the feast, though she says she will not look to love unless love finds her. Night falls, and the Capulet home glows with candlelight and music. Romeo, Benvolio, and their witty friend Mercutio approach, masked and full of mischief. Mercutio, vibrant and full of words, mocks love and dreams with a dazzling monologue about Queen Mab, the fairy midwife who delivers dreams in the night. Romeo listens, quiet and uncertain, his heart still heavy. At the feast, Tybalt spots Romeo among the guests and seethes. He wishes to strike, to defend the family name, but Lord Capulet restrains him. Tonight, the house must remain welcoming. Tybalt yields for now, but vows revenge. Unaware of the danger, Romeo sees Juliet across the room. The moment is still. All else fades. He approaches. Their first words to each other are a sonnet, shared line by line. They speak of pilgrims and saints, of holy shrines and gentle touch. Their voices meet like poetry, and their hands do too. They kiss. But joy is short-lived. The nurse interrupts, calling Juliet away. Romeo asks who she is. A Capulet, he is told. His face falls. Juliet, too, inquires. The only son of your great enemy, the nurse replies. Juliet gasps. My only love sprung from my only hate. And so, from this spark beneath a grand roof, love blooms amid feud and fate. The lovers part, not knowing what lies ahead. But destiny has stirred, and Verona will never be the same. The night is still, but Romeo's heart is restless. He cannot bear to part from Juliet without another glance. So while his friends leave, he climbs the Capulet garden wall, risking discovery for one more moment with her. Hidden beneath the balcony, he hears Juliet speak to the night. Her voice is soft, her words filled with longing. She speaks of Romeo, unaware he is near. She wonders aloud why fate made him a Montague, the enemy of her house. "Oh, Romeo, Romeo," she whispers, "wherefore art thou Romeo?" Moved by her words, Romeo steps forward. She gasps, then smiles. They confess their love in hushed tones beneath the stars. Juliet is cautious. Love, so sudden and fierce, must be true to endure. But Romeo swears by the moon, by his heart, by her beauty. They exchange vows of love. Juliet promises to send word the next day if she is ready to marry him. Their meeting ends with a final, reluctant farewell. Morning arrives. Romeo seeks Friar Lawrence, a wise and kind priest. The friar is surprised by Romeo's sudden change of heart, from Rosalind to Juliet overnight. But he sees hope in this union. Perhaps it may heal the ancient grudge between the families. He agrees to help and prepare the marriage. Elsewhere, Mercutio and Benvolio search for Romeo. They tease and joke until Romeo appears. The mood is light, filled with wit and wordplay. Soon, the nurse arrives with a message from Juliet. Romeo tells her of the plan. Juliet will meet him at Friar Lawrence's cell that afternoon. There, they will be married in secret. Juliet waits impatiently for news. The nurse returns, playful and slow to deliver her message. At last, she tells Juliet the truth. Romeo awaits. Joy spreads across Juliet's face. She rushes to meet him. In the quiet chapel, Romeo and Juliet exchange vows. Friar Lawrence blesses them. They are now husband and wife, though no one else knows. But fate does not rest. That very day, a new conflict brews. Tybalt, angry from the night before, seeks Romeo in the streets. Romeo, now kin to Tybalt through marriage, refuses to fight. Tybalt mocks him. Mercutio, loyal and hot-tempered, steps in. Words turn to steel. Mercutio is wounded beneath Romeo's arm. As he falls, he curses both houses. "A plague of both your houses," he cries. Grief and rage seize Romeo. He chases Tybalt and kills him. Blood on his hands, he stands stunned. The prince arrives. Benvolio explains all. The prince banishes Romeo from Verona. Juliet learns the news. Her cousin Tybalt is dead. Her new husband banished. Grief pulls her in all directions. She weeps. Her nurse comforts her. Romeo hides with Friar Lawrence. The friar devises a plan. Romeo will spend the night with Juliet, then flee to Mantua. They meet that night. Their time is brief, filled with sadness. As dawn breaks, Romeo leaves. Juliet watches him go, her heart aching. Trouble continues. Lord Capulet, unaware of Juliet's marriage, arranges her wedding to Paris. Juliet refuses. Her father, angered, demands obedience. Desperate, Juliet runs to Friar Lawrence. He gives her a potion. It will make her appear dead for 42 hours. Afterward, she will awaken and flee with Romeo. The plan is risky, but it offers hope. Juliet returns home and agrees to the wedding. That night, she drinks the potion and falls into a death-like sleep. Morning arrives in Verona, and the household of Capulet is in high spirits. Preparations for Juliet's wedding to Paris are underway. Servants bustle, plans are laid, and music is ordered. None know the truth that lies behind Juliet's quiet gaze. In her chamber, she steels her courage and drinks the potion given by Friar Lawrence. Slowly, her limbs grow heavy, her breath slows, and she falls into a still, death-like sleep. When the nurse enters to wake her the next morning, she cries out in shock. Juliet lies cold and unresponsive. The household erupts in grief. Lady Capulet sobs. Lord Capulet, torn between anger and sorrow, mourns his only child. Paris, who came to wed, now weeps for what is lost. The joyful preparations become a funeral. The musicians fall silent. Juliet's lifeless body is laid in the Capulet family tomb. Word of Juliet's death travels fast. In Mantua, where Romeo waits in exile, he hears the news from Balthazar, his loyal servant. Juliet is dead, he says, unaware it is false. Romeo's world shatters. His thoughts race. There is no life without her. Despair overtakes him. He visits an apothecary and buys a vial of deadly poison. Though the apothecary hesitates, selling such a thing is forbidden, Romeo convinces him. My poverty, but not my will, consents, the man replies. Back in Verona, Friar Lawrence learns that his letter, which explained the plan to Romeo, never reached him. A plague had closed the gates of the city where the messenger was detained. Realizing the danger, the friar rushes to the Capulet tomb. He hopes to be there when Juliet awakens, but Romeo arrives first. In the darkness of the tomb, he sees Juliet lying motionless, her cheeks still pink, her lips still warm, but he does not notice. He believes her truly gone. Paris is there, mourning. He confronts Romeo, thinking him an intruder come to defile the graves. A fight breaks out. chorus falls, wounded, and with his last breath, asks to be laid beside Juliet. Romeo, moved, grants his wish. He kneels beside Juliet. He speaks to her softly. His heart is heavy, but calm. He kisses her lips one last time and drinks the poison. His life ebbs away. Moments later, Juliet stirs. She wakes to find Romeo dead beside her. Her joy turns to horror. She kisses him, hoping some poison remains. None does. She takes his dagger and, with quiet resolve, ends her life. Friar Lawrence arrives too late. He finds the bodies. He hears voices approaching and flees in sorrow and fear. The watchmen enter and discover the tragic scene. Soon, the prince, the Capulets, and the Montagues gather. Friar Lawrence returns and tells all of the secret marriage, of the plans made and failed, of the love that dared to cross hatred. Lord Capulet and Lord Montague stand over their children. Grief replaces fury. They agree to end their feud and honor Romeo and Juliet with golden statues in Verona. Thus ends the tale of the star-crossed lovers whose deaths brought peace to a broken city. The sorrow is great, but so is the lesson. Hatred breeds tragedy, and love, even when lost, can mend old wounds. The sun rises over Verona, but the city feels darker than ever. Whispers of sorrow flow through the streets. The Capulets and Montagues remain quiet in their homes, stunned by the weight of recent events. The city that had once buzzed with life now walks gently, as though afraid to disturb the peace that has settled after such loss. Prince Aeschylus gathers the people in the city square. He speaks with firmness and sorrow. All are punished, he says. No victory, no side to claim honor, only loss and regret. The prince recounts the tale for all to hear, ensuring that Verona remembers the price of unchecked hatred. In the days that follow, the Capulet and Montague families begin to fulfill their promise. The statues of Romeo and Juliet are crafted with care. They are placed in the town's heart, standing side by side. Made of gold, yet burdened with memory, they reflect not wealth, but the cost of enmity. Citizens visit quietly, placing flowers and whispering prayers. Children ask questions. Parents explain slowly that love and anger must not wage war. Friar Lawrence returns to his simple chapel. Though he remains a free man, his soul is not untroubled. He tends to his garden, speaks only when spoken to, and writes letters by candlelight. He thinks often of the two young lovers and what more might have been done. Still, he holds hope that their story will guide others. The nurse, once full of laughter, spends her days in quiet service. She remembers Juliet's laughter and her tears. She does not try to forget, but chooses instead to remember with gentleness. In small ways, she shares Juliet's grace with others. In Mantua, Balthasar returns to his modest dwelling. He too is changed. He speaks with a softer tone. Sometimes, in the marketplace, he tells pieces of the story to travelers. not with drama, but with care. He speaks of Romeo's kindness, of his poetry, and the gentle fire of his heart. Seasons shift. The city heals slowly. The houses of Montague and Capulet, once towers of rivalry, now open their doors for shared meals and quiet meetings. There is no rush, no spectacle, but progress continues. Fields once marked by lines of division are tilled together. Young children play with names that once held weight. Now, they carry only memory. And so, the legacy of Romeo and Juliet endures, not in battle, not in pride, but in quiet remembrance. Their love, brief yet brilliant, became the bridge over an ancient river of anger. Their silence echoes louder than swords. Their statues gleam in moonlight, not as decoration, but as witness. Teachers speak of their tale in lessons. Writers pen soft verses in their honor. Lovers place flowers on the stones beneath their feet. And always, the lesson remains. Let love lead, let hatred rest. Time moves forward in Verona. The wounds of the past begin to fade, though they do not vanish. The story of Romeo and Juliet passes from mouth to ear, from heart to heart. Some tell it as a tragedy, others as a lesson, and some simply as a tale of love that dared to bloom in a place where it was forbidden. In the Capulet home, the rooms once filled with plans for weddings and feasts now serve quieter purposes. Lady Capulet, more reserved, spends her days among books and candlelight. Lord Capulet, once proud and temperamental, now walks the streets with a bowed head. He stops sometimes at Juliet's statue and speaks softly, not of what was lost, but of what was learned. At the Montague estate, similar changes unfold. Lord Montague, now a man subdued by grief, honors his promise. He orders the statue of Juliet to stand beside Romeo's, just as he pledged. The work is done in silence, and when complete, he visits it alone. No words, no tears, just presence. The people of Verona, inspired by the end of the feud, begin to see one another differently. Shopkeepers who once refused to serve those from the opposite house now greet one another by name. Children learn of Romeo and Juliet not only as figures of love, but as symbols of change. In the marketplace, painters begin to sell small renderings of their statues. Poets recite lines inspired by the lovers. Musicians compose soft melodies in their memory. In the churchyard, Friar Lawrence continues his quiet life. He tends the garden, grows herbs, and writes. He places fresh lavender at the tomb each week. Though age comes for him, his spirit remains gentle. Visitors sometimes ask him to tell the story. He always begins the same way, not with drama, but with grace. In fair Verona, two hearts met and changed everything. The nurse grows older, her laughter more subtle, her steps slower. But when she sees young girls learning to dance or speak of love, her eyes light up. She tells them, "Let your heart be kind, even when the world is not." She never speaks Juliet's name aloud in those moments, but all who know her understand. Balthasar, in Mantua, continues to speak of his friend. He never exaggerates, never dramatizes. He speaks plainly of Romeo's love, of his mistakes, and of his strength. Travelers listen with care, sometimes with tears, and leave with a piece of Verona's heart in their own. Years pass, the city grows, but the story remains. Each generation finds it anew, and with each telling, the lesson deepens. Not just about love or loss, but about what can be mended through understanding. Romeo and Juliet did not live long, but they lived brightly. Their choices, though young, left a mark on stone and soul. And in that mark, Verona remembers that even in the deepest feud, love may find a way. That even in sorrow, peace may bloom. That every story, no matter how short, has the power to reshape the world. And still the story echoes. In distant cities and quiet towns, in classrooms and on stages, the names Romeo and Juliet continue to live. Their tale is shared with soft voices and thoughtful pauses, with reverence and reflection. It becomes more than a love story. It becomes a symbol of youth, of hope, of what happens when love meets resistance, and of the bridges that only heartbreak can build. Over time, the telling of their story changes lives. Lovers who once feared judgment now speak more freely. Families once divided by silence begin again with small conversations. Young hearts listen and feel that their own longings are not so different. The names of Montague and Capulet are no longer whispered with suspicion, but spoken in art, poetry, and peace. Verona changes. The city breathes differently now. Where once the names of old feuds darkened the doorsteps of homes, now flowers bloom in shared courtyards. The great houses no longer stand as symbols of rivalry, but of memory, of what once was, and of how far they have come. Each year, on a still morning in spring, the people gather. They place flowers around the golden statues in the center of town. Children read the sonnet the lovers once exchanged. Musicians play slow, wandering melodies. It is not a celebration. It is not mourning. It is something in between, a moment to remember that love, even when brief, leaves something behind. Friar Lawrence, long since passed, is remembered too. His small garden now grows wild with rosemary, thyme, and white lilies. A plaque at its edge bears a single line: "Let peace be planted, even where tragedy once stood." The nurse's laughter still echoes in stories told by those who remember her warmth. They say she lived many more years, always keeping a place for Juliet in her heart, always looking kindly on young lovers who dared to speak their truth. Balthasar's final years were quiet. He became a storyteller, but never a performer. He told the story softly, always pausing at the same places. And when asked why he never changed it, he simply replied, "Because it was true, and because it mattered." And so, as years become decades and decades become centuries, the story of Romeo and Juliet remains. It is not just a tale of sorrow. It is not just about a kiss beneath a balcony or a dagger in the dark. It is about change. It is about how love, even in its end, can break through barriers and soften the hardest hearts. Let us remember them, not for the way they died, but for the courage they showed when they chose to love. Let us whisper their names, not with grief, but with understanding. Let us carry their story gently, so that others may hear and choose peace where conflict once lived. For Romeo and Juliet, though gone, still speak, and what they say is simple. Let love be louder than hate. The end